2022's meeting. Please note that you are able to provide public comment. Please register by sending an email to ocpc@seattle.gov with public comment in the subject line. We will also allow community members attending by phone to register for public comment by voice. For those wishing to do so at the beginning of the public comment period, when prompted, please unmute yourself and say your name to register. Speakers must be registered in order to be recognized by the chair. And if you are unable to attend the remote meeting, please submit written comments again to the Community Police Commission at ocpc@seattle.gov. The Seattle Community Police Commission acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Muckleshoot, Suquamish, and Duwamish people, past and present. With humility, we recognize how much we benefit from living on their land and water. The Seattle Community Police Commission honors and lifts up these tribes. We hope that this acknowledgement will encourage authentic relationships with urban Native people and all Coast Salish tribes. I will turn the meeting over to our facilitators for the morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Director Grant. To begin with a land acknowledgement, the Seattle Community Police Commission acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the, sorry.
My apologies. I just did it.
I'm sorry. I completely, I tuned in a little bit late. Great. Sorry about that. So attendance then. Let's look at the list. Okay. Reverend Hunter.
Present.
Good morning. Reverend Walden. I see you. There we go.
Here.
Douglas Wagner.
Present.
And I'm here. Suzette Dickerson.
Present.
And Alina Santillan.
Here.
Erica Newman.
Present.
Thank you. Prachi Dave.
Prachi is not able to join us this morning.
Got it. Joseph Saya. Okay. Asha Mohammed.
I'm here. Sorry.
Oh.
I was trying to find the unmute button.
No problem. It's kind of hard this early in the morning for me, definitely. Asha Mohammed. Officer Mullins.
Officer Mullins is here.
Morning, Officer Mullins. Lejaya Washington. Esther Lucero is, I believe, Colleen Echo Hawk. Tasha Johnson.
Good morning.
And then, good morning. And then Catherine is, I believe, on leave. I think that is it for commissioners. All right. Moving on to, let's see. Yes, we need to review and approve the minutes from our last meeting. So do I have a motion to, and the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second? I'll second. I'll just step away and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. And do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, I'll step away and move to approve the minutes. Anybody want a second?
I'll second. This is Reverend Hunter.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, the minutes are approved as well. for this action item review. Director Grant, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I just wanted everyone to know that the use of force data letter that we reviewed in our last meeting and had approved, we actually received a notification from Brian Maxey from SPD yesterday evening that response to our letter was circulated to the full commission. If anyone has not received the letter, please let me know so I can make sure that it's sent out to you. I know some of you have some alternative emails, alternate emails, sorry. The staff and I also are going to be reviewing that letter too, to see if there are any additional responses or questions we have. I know many of you have probably not had an opportunity to read it yet, so we will add it to our next agenda if there are substantial questions or comments.
Thank you, Director Grant. Moving to the next agenda item, we'd like to thank Senior Deputy Mayor Harrell for coming to speak to us today and give us updates. I also understand that Mayor Harrell has accepted our invitation to meet, and that Director Grant and the staff are working with him to schedule that. So Deputy Mayor Harrell, if you want to.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. I apologize if my internet's a little bit unstable, but I will do my best. If I see all of you freeze, then I will give myself a pause and and continue. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Monisha Harrell. I'm the Senior Deputy Mayor for the City of Seattle. My portfolio includes SPD, Fire, the Office of Emergency Management, Office of Intergovernmental Relations, HR, and Budget. And so you can see I have a pretty heavy public safety arm within my portfolio. I have been with you before, literally. I was a member of the CPC a few years ago, and then joined the monitor team, and would have had no idea that I would be in this role just a short while later. So I have a lot of different perspectives that I bring to the role, and really wanted an opportunity. And thank you, Director Grant, for allowing me the opportunity to be able to share a little bit about what we're doing right now with the new administration, and also an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have. I know that there are some CPC members who I have served with, and some that have joined since my time, and so it's a great opportunity to see some of them I'm familiar with, and meet some of those who I look forward to getting to know a little bit better. So I'll start with that, and then I'll just kind of overview some of the things I thought I'd touch on today, just to give you an outline. I will talk about the OPA director search that is currently an open interim position by ordinance. That position is usually filled within 90 days. We went to the city council to get a little bit of an extension. As a new administration, we had a lot of open positions to fill. So the council has granted us an extension until June 30th to fill that particular role. We are currently, this is a contract negotiation year for SPOG, and also a contract negotiation year for SPEMA, the Police Management Association. So those are a few of the things that we're doing. And of course, the consent decree is always is an ongoing I won't say issue, but an ongoing affair for the city. So we can talk a little bit through that, but that was what I had on the agenda for today, if that works for everybody. All right, super. And I apologize. The reason I'm on the unstable internet is I had a small round after 2 years. COVID finally caught me. So vaccinated and boosted, but but isolating for just a few more days. So the OPA director search, it is one of the three legs of the stool for our police accountability, similar to the CPC, and really, really important to this to the overall accountability process. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't just rush through that process to hit the 30-day ordinance, but that we really were prepared to be able to do a thoughtful process. By ordinance, you know that 25% of the members of the committee will be CPC members. And so as we have it right now, we haven't confirmed the committee, but we will have 8 search committee members, 2 of which will come from the CPC. And we're hoping one of which will also serve as a co-chair in that search committee process. Council member Lisa Herbold will also be on the committee and is confirmed as she is the chair of public safety. And we are looking to fill out the other names and get some confirmations within the next couple days on that process. And so we will bring those to you shortly. Just to kind of give an idea as to how we're running the process this year. Instead of engaging an outside search firm, we are using the internal city HR division. SDHR, the city's HR department, has expanded their services to also be able to include executive search. They did that last year. And so this will be one of the executive searches that they are leading for us in terms of looking for this position. This doesn't mean that this is going to be any less of a wide and broad search. It will still be wide and broad. We just have brought some of those professional services in-house. The OPA director position is a really, it's a tough position. It requires a very strong understanding of a lot of different aspects of policing, including the consent decree, including all of the partners involved in Engage, being a integral partner with the CPC and with OIG, and also really being able to follow the facts of the case, of each of the cases, and not let a lot of the outside noise necessarily influence the facts. And, you know, and it's a critical role. It's a critical role in our accountability system. So with that, I will say the job description, the first thing that the committee will do is review and approve the job description. So we won't have a job description until at least after the first meeting of the committee search, but we're hoping that the committee leaves that first meeting with an approved job description, or with very close to an approved job description, so that that position can go live within the next probably week and a half. That position will be live for probably about 5 weeks. And then the vetting, narrowing, and interviewing process will begin. In the interim, while we are getting applications, the committee itself will be doing some values-based discussions around what they're looking for in the director. They will also be doing, as I know you all do with the CPC and other boards and commissions, they will also be doing race and social justice training and review, so that we have the right lenses in place when going through the director applications and ultimately interviews. We work to bring a conclusion, a recommendation to the city council by June 30th. So that's the new date that we're targeting, is June 30th of this year, to have the new director appointed. Any questions on that before I continue? Austin.
Yes, wishing you a speedy recovery. So sorry to hear that you're having to deal with the pandemic. There is a job description posted of the OPA director on government jobs that I saw last night. And so I'm curious if that's like a placeholder, or It says it closes on May 3rd, 2022. It's on the Seattle Government Jobs website.
I will check that. It's not supposed to be approved until the committee gets a final look at it and does the review and approval. There will be time to make edits to that if needed. We did have the job description as from the last search we did, and so I think that was probably a place where HR was starting.
Okay.
Reverend Walden.
Thank you, and congratulations in your new position. And we miss your your thoughtful, deliberative way of being a commissioner. We miss you. So blessings over there in the other office that where you are. Oh, I was going to ask about the qualifications and coming up with the job description, because I thought that the ordinance already laid out some of the things that needed to be the 2017 ordinance. I thought that kind of outlined some of the possibilities and some of the requirements for that job, and that's what I was correct. So that's why I was just wanting to know about having to come up, having to this maybe rewrite a job description, and I thought maybe it was already laid out. So anyway, I'll just wait. I'll just take your answer to that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. There are some aspects of the job description that will absolutely follow the ordinance, but there are also a lot of things we've learned in the last few years.
That's
right?
true. Mm-hmm.
And we want to take those things that we've learned since the ordinance was passed. Really, there's a level of, cultural humility with the job that is very important to understand all of the different communities
Right.
that this role impacts. There are aspects of how we anticipate and expect the director to engage with the other accountability partners. We want to be certain that there's a fit within the full system. And so those are things that we might not have known as clearly in 2017 that we do know now.
That would include culture competence then, is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Brandy, Director Grant.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you again for attending the meeting today, and just reiterate what Reverend Walden was saying. We've missed working with you in any capacity. So happy to have you here. One of the main questions that I have would be, will there be any community aspect to the vetting of or narrowing down of some of these candidates? I think it's really important that community is also allowed to have a say in who will be in this really vital and crucial role. Has that been taken into consideration?
Absolutely. So that is part of why we also asked for the longer extension. Councilmember Mosqueda did request a community forum, town hall engagement process, and so we did add that to the timeline before our June 30th selection deadline. So that is part of the back end, and we will try to work on getting that. We will try to work on getting that timeline out to the commission. We would obviously love the commission's input and support in that outreach process to make sure that we've got a good representative of people to be able to be there and see the options that we're bringing forth. Douglas.
Hi, Senior Deputy Mayor Harrell. It's great to see you again, and always great to work with you. I have a few kind of quick questions. So one is, so the committee will be putting forth a recommendation of one name to City Council. Is that right?
So the committee will be bringing forth 3 names to the mayor.
Right.
The mayor will have all of the options available from the so the mayor will get 3 names, but we'll have the inputs from the town hall. The 3 names will come forward from the committee. So the 3 names will be advanced from the committee. And then once those 3 names are advanced, we'll have the town hall and we'll have the, I think, a couple of individual interviews. They will do a one-on-one interview with me as well. They will do a one-on-one interview with the mayor. And then the one name will be advanced to City Council, but they'll get to kind of see where we are along the process, and we'll likely be talking to City Council as that process kind of moves through. So there shouldn't be any surprises by the time we get to June 30th. We'll know who the 3 are that we've narrowed to, and then we'll see how they engage with the community in the last few weeks.
Thank you. And then, so the goal is to submit a recommendation. I guess the mayor is submitting a recommendation to city council by June 30th.
Right.
So I was hoping, I know there's at least a couple commissioners who have expressed interest. And so I'm wondering if could you just delve a little bit deeper into the timeline for the committee. So like when will the committee, when is the committee supposed to give its final recommendation to the mayor, and like about kind of what kind of time commitment are we thinking for folks who are volunteering to participate?
Yeah. The mayor doesn't have the longest. We've kind of shortened the window that the mayor will get to select, but also he'll have an opportunity to be able to kind of see the process as it goes along. So it won't be kind of like a blind review until the very end. He'll be briefed on the process all the way through, but he probably has the shortest time frame in terms of once all of the steps are completed, he has about a week to be able to do his final interview and then selection. So the CPC review with the rest of the committee and all of that will go up until likely about the middle of June. So
And
it'll be about a 2-month process, middle of April to middle of June.
And are these weekly meetings, or kind of what's like the time commitment for the committee?
In the very beginning, there's probably the biggest lag. It'll probably be like a 2-week, like an initial onboarding, reviewing the job description, a 2-week lag while the job description's out there, resumes are being collected. And then the process of getting the committee back together to discuss, more in detail. Because, the job descriptions give you an outline, but they don't put meat on the bones. So the committee really needs to have some discussion, the meat on the bones. One of the things Reverend Walden was talking about, cultural competency and those sorts of things. It'll be an opportunity for the committee to level set on when we're reviewing resumes, what might we be looking for when we are listening to interviews. What are the things that we'll be listening for, developing the interview questions together as a group. So that they can ask those collectively. So that process will probably be about an every other week cadence for the 2 months.
I'm sorry, I have like a litany of questions.
No,
but,
absolutely.
Okay.
If you have these questions, others probably have them too.
I'm wondering, so who's going to be kind of overseeing and coordinating the committee? Is that your role, or is there someone else who's doing that?
So the former OPA director, Andrew Meyerberg, will be shepherding this process with help from a couple other staffers from the mayor's office. So he will be shepherding the details of the process, making sure that the invitations, making sure that are on people's calendars, that people are aware of what's going on if there are any questions. I will be high level within the process until it gets closer to the end. I will likely join the committee just to listen to what they're sharing in terms of values and what they're looking for. That's kind of hard to relay. And so I will pop into the committee to listen to some of the ideating around what they're looking for and what they're hoping to gain. But the tactical part of the committee will be shepherded by Director Meyerberg. All right. I know that this is a contract negotiation year, so I'll move to those two. Topics now. SPOG, the SPOG contract. This is a big. Oh, sorry, Director Grant.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, I got a little bit of a lag over here on my end. Before we conclude, I just wanted to confirm that you and Director Meyerberg have received the 2 names from the commission.
We have received the 2 names from the commission, and thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. And sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's great. Okay, so the contract negotiations, this is a big SPOG contract negotiation year. There is a lot, you know, as the Judge Robart with the consent decree, as he has said in the past, this, you know, there's really no short way to put it. If we want to make movement on the consent decree, we have to have a strong contract that shows strong accountability measures in place. So we know how important this particular negotiation year is. One of the things that we have opted to do, and that was already underway before the administration started, was to begin work on the SPEMA contract, the Police Management Association contract. And good news there is that we are in the final stages of that particular contract. I think that I'm excited for that to be finalized so that we can bring that forward to council and the CPC. I think that there are some really good things within that contract, and I think it sets a really good framework and stage going into the SPOG contract negotiations. You know, this is one of those years that either we get some significant movement this year, or you know, we stay in the consent decree for another 3 years until the next contract. We don't have a desire to want to do that. And so we are really looking at how we solidify some key accountability measures within this contract this year so that we can begin to move towards the end of the consent decree. The end of the consent decree isn't an end goal within itself, but it's a milestone, right? It shows progress towards the future. And so I just want to be really clear that when we talk about that, it's not the end per se. It is the closing of a chapter, but hopefully what that chapter really means is that that's the beginning of the city's accountability systems being fully in place to be able to lead the future of what of how accountability will move going forward. So it is a snapshot in time for where the city was in 2012. It's progressed a little bit, but not nearly, I think, where we could be. And I think even many members, even SPD has moved beyond where the consent decree had us at. And so in terms of an accountability measure, I think it's we're ready to we're ready to advance beyond this chapter. And so this is one of those things that we need to do, is we really need to have a very strong contract in order to be able to do that. We will be, of course, looking for opportunities to involve and engage CPC in this process. You know, we're working very closely with our partners at City Council to make sure that that they are involved in the process as well. There is a larger labor relations committee with, I believe, 5 of the City Council members. I sit on the labor relations committee body as well. And so there's a really good group of folks who are focused on broader labor relations, of which the SPOG contract is one of those elements of it.
Mhm.
Reverend Walden.
Yeah, this is good news, because you know this contract that was signed in 2018 took us back to 2005 as it relates to police accountability in the city, and that's the piece I don't think that people understand. 2005, if you don't get an agreement, you return back to the appendix, that you go back to the original agreement that you had an agreement on, and that took away a lot of power from the police chief and a lot of other things that we're suffering from. So I hope we can get a good contract. But also, you know, in the consent decree, I understand the city wants to come from on it and all of that, but in some ways, Seattle is going to not be the same city. The police department has actually been dismantled, and crime is escalating. It's not enough police officers, and then the police shootings did not go down. And I think that when we asked the questions, when we wanted the DOJ, since I'm the last person standing here who worked on that issue in 2010, 11, and 12. And then, you know, and then with the CPC being appointed 2013 as a part of the consent decree, part of the, you know, setting up the community police commission and all of that for that piece. But what it seems like to me is that people who want the DOJ to come to town don't ask the right questions. I mean, because the questions would have been, how could we have a stronger police accountability and also a whole police accountable around police shootings? And so we didn't ask the right questions. So we're not gonna, the community is not gonna get the right answer, because the one answer is data, and the other in the community is looking at the other part. What brought the DOJ to town was the death of John T. Williams and the other things. And so, you know, that piece is not going to be answered when the DOJ and everybody packs up and go home. Seattle is a different city today than it was in 2010, 11, 12, or 13. Thank you. That's just my comment.
Yeah, I don't disagree that Seattle isn't the same city it was then. You know, it's a living entity, and as a living entity, it changes and grows, and we should hope that we should hope for change and growth for any living entity. That's part of the challenge of the consent decree, is that as a legal contract, legal document, it doesn't move with the times or change with the environment. And that's part of why over time, it becomes more of a hindrance than a benefit. I think that there's the listening to what the judge says in terms of his literal words, and also listening to what he says in terms of his meaning. And taking both of those things into account, it is very clear that if we don't win strong accountability measures that he believes are sustainable and solid, then we won't have a pathway to getting out of the consent decree. I think he seems pretty clear both in what he said and what he is really saying. So I don't think we should mistake that he is very serious about that. I think he's very committed to a successful outcome, and to an outcome that brings sustainable change. I think that we collectively share a vision for the police department as a learning organization, which means that when mistakes are made, and there will always be mistakes made when humans are involved, that they can learn and grow, as opposed to stagnating and letting those mistakes fester and deepen and harm community. And so for any learning organization, you have to have the processes and procedures in place for that ongoing growth. That is where we should be as a city in general, and as a department within the city. It should be exemplary in leading the way, as an example. So I think there's a lot of agreement. It's not an or, it's an and. We do need a strong public safety fabric that includes all of our public safety partners. That will include some community public safety measures, but also for a city of our geography and size, we are incredibly under-resourced in terms of the actual number of officers, and we have to address that as well.
Yeah, because right now the charter is violated, because the charter says that each sector supposed to have adequate police protection. So thank you so much. I'm really concerned. I mean, I just have to put it out there about how we're going to be left and how we're going to move forward with that. You know, we had so much enthusiasm that we thought that this would be done and that we would have something to show for it. But I'm really encouraged with what you have to say. We're really encouraged. Thank you.
And I will, say this to everybody. These are great jobs, right? I know that this is a tough time period as policing switches from how we thought of it before and where it is going in the future. I think the future of policing across the country will actually be greatly improved for this moment in time. But I also think we have to let our communities know that these are great jobs. Starting salary is above 80,000 a year for somebody fresh out of the academy. That's a great job and it's a great opportunity. And some of the best officers I've seen are those who they want to help people. They want to help others. They want to be of service and in service to their communities. And they do really, really good work because there's so many ways in which they can do that as an officer. And so I just, don't discourage our communities from reaching out for these opportunities because they're strong pathways to good employment. I know people who may have wanted to be teachers. I asked one officer who was just the epitome of just a great community service officer, and I asked what brought you to this profession, and she said she wanted to help people. She either wanted to be a teacher or an officer, and she found a pathway to being able to help people through policing. And to me, that's exactly it. It's this idea that we're looking for people who at their heart, who at their core have a servant leadership mentality and can apply that to this profession. If we attract more of those types of folks, we will get what we want in the future. So really, don't discourage people from, and in fact, look within our communities and see who would be good applicants, who would be good candidates. Training is paid for, and like I said, really great starting wages for those who choose to enter the profession. Mark, I see your hand.
Thank you very much, and good morning. It's good to see you again. And I just want to echo the comments that both you and Reverend Walden made. One of our most effective officers that we have here in the South Precinct, Officer Ellis, grew up in Rainier Beach, played ball at Rainier Beach, and currently lives in Rainier Beach and is a police officer in Rainier Beach. So an example of a man who came back to the neighborhood, who wanted to serve his community. He's the kind of example that I think we want to highlight, somebody from the neighborhood who wants to serve the neighborhood. And again, decent paying position, but it's those kind of folks that, I feel that we need to recruit from our community to better serve our communities, because I think you get better outcomes when the folks who are in the neighborhood, serving the neighborhood, or from the neighborhood are serving the neighborhood. I also want to echo what Mother Walden said. With our numbers being what they are, it is a challenge for just regular response. The things I hear from community is a lot of concern that the non-emergency line is basically not functional because we have staffing shortages in the communications section. So basically they just put on a recording saying no one's available to take your call. Now, when you're trying to report something and you get a recording, that's not a really good feeling. So it's not just the staffing shortages on the patrol side, it's also the staffing shortages on the communications and civilian side. So those are just a couple of things that I wanted to bring up that in terms of what I'm hearing about from folks in the community. So
Yeah.
again, thank you very much. It's good to see y'all.
I appreciate that. I will also add that the chief is working really hard to look at what positions don't have to be sworn officers and can be civilianized to help us spread our numbers a little bit better during this time period. And so I think that he is at this moment looking for opportunities where there may be more call center positions and those things open for civilian opportunities as well, because a level head, a calm demeanor, and the ability to talk people through things that are very important to them. There's a shortage of talent right now. Austin.
I see another hand. I'll defer to the other person because I've already talked about it.
Wonderful. Although you're allowed to ask a question, Austin.
Sure, I'll come back, but
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Bo.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I forgot the other person that was using my, this is
Oh,
Alina.
Alina.
The other person, sorry.
I was like, I hear
the
the voice and I recognize the voice.
I'm so sorry. The other person that was using my Zoom did not change. I didn't change it. Whatever. It's really early and I forgot to do that. Bo, Alina, whatever. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to just to chime in. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Okay. So I'm sure many people already know this, but I'm someone that, wanted to be a police officer, actually applied to SPD when I was 29, 30 years old. Never been arrested, no DUI, no pay my bills on time, all of those things. Former social worker, Latinx, I'm queer, I'm trans. And as a former social worker, I think coming out of that, in my 20s, I was like, man, I'm getting young people after really terrible things have happened to them. And I want to be someone that helps prevent that. And I had developed a passion for, really wanting to go into like a vice role and doing sex crimes against children, human trafficking, because I saw a lot of that in when I was a social worker. And, I think that, maybe I literally or figuratively, who knows, dodged a bullet and not being accepted. You can look into that. I'm not sure why they don't tell you that. But, I think over time, what I have really been challenged by and grappled with and have learned about myself and community, especially as a non-Black, non-Indigenous person, even as a light-skinned person of color, is really trying to center the communities that are deeply impacted. And I think that things can be both and, they don't have to be either or. And I think unfortunately, when we exist in these white supremacist cultures, it pits Black, Indigenous folks of color against each other. Well, this Black person said this, so I'm going to align with that. Well, this brown person said this, so I'm going to align with that. And the challenge, I think, for me, and I think this is maybe why some officers are willing to talk with me or take me on a ride along or, whatever. And I have good relationships with officers, including Mark, who's on this call, is, I'm willing to hold the complexity of the desire to do good in your community. I grieve that kind of loss of what I thought I could do. And I think the unfortunate thing for me that I keep seeing, which, to be honest, having so many officers leave Seattle is more concerning to me than honestly if they would have stayed. And what I mean by that is, if I was a police officer, I want to be held accountable. If I'm a teacher, if I'm a director at an organization, if I'm whatever my job is, if I'm causing harm, or if I made a mistake, I want people to come to me and say, hey, this is not how we do things here. This is whatever, even if it's a bad decision, even if I make a decision that really harms someone, I still expect to be held accountable. And it is concerning to me that I think the culture and narrative is Seattle sucks. They're trying to hold us accountable to our jobs, so we're going to go. And I think that kind of it's the culture piece for me. I'm not denying what you're saying, Mark, or what you're saying, Monisha, or anybody else. Like, I know Mark Mullins is a good man, and I know that he's probably a good police officer, and I don't think that changes the institution of policing, which I think is broken in a lot of ways. I would expect anybody that is being charged with a public service role to care for people, to serve people, to show up in those ways, to be held accountable, especially when they have the authority to use a weapon to take someone's life. So I just wanted to share that as someone who wanted to be a police officer, who went through that process, and also I'm about to be 37, and I've grown a lot in what my understanding and expectation. And when we talk about public safety, I've kind of shifted into the space of, like, when we talk about public safety for who? How do we create public safety that's holistic, that is taking into consideration, like, our community needs, that are not just around, we need cops to, protect us, or, like, that's not a truth. That's not a reality for a lot of communities. I'm not saying that there haven't been instances where officers have shown up and been able to save someone or help someone. I'm holding that duality, and I hope all of you will as well. But when we're talking about public safety, I wish we could kind of talk about that in a more holistic way, where we're talking about the ways in which we are investing in community and what they are asking for, especially Black and Brown communities, around what their holistic needs are. Not just around safety, but around housing and healthcare and all of those things. So I took up a lot of time. I just wanted to share that experience for me. And, I hear what you're saying in terms of, like, we all exist in a capitalist society, and we all have to make money and have jobs and be able to take care of our families. And also, I'm just really trying to reimagine what it looks like to care for communities when I have a heart to serve that doesn't always center policing. So thank you for giving me some time to share.
No, I appreciate that. And I will say, I actually didn't know that you were interested in becoming an officer at one time. There are a lot of different roles and ways to serve in policing. And I think that specifically those crimes against children, I think are calling for many folks. And I know that you found other ways to serve and give back to your community as well. I as you were speaking, I thought of the all it takes for evil to prevail is, this is a summary of the quote, but for good men to do nothing, right? And I think about that because we have, fully acknowledge that the culture has been in the past historically one where, the thin blue line, you didn't rat on or tell on a colleague who might have been doing something wrong. And that is part of what has led to a lot of the broken culture. But I really do believe that is changing. I think that the new officers that we are attracting have a focus, and many who have served, they do understand that their commitment, their honor is to serve and protect the community. Those who don't have that basis or that mindset, those are the ones that shouldn't be in these very powerful roles. With great power comes great responsibility. And so hearing all of that, that's why I kind of put out the broader ask, like, for those in community who have the servant leadership heart. Those are the officers we need. Those are the ones we should be calling to. Those are the ones we should be attracting into service, because that's the only way we're going to get a different outcome. So And I do think that it's an and. I don't think it's an or. I think when I think about some of the increases we've had in gun violence, you know, the loss of the young life on Third, you know, we have a suspect that's been arrested in that case, right? We have that because we were, you know, our officers were able to, you know, put together all of the video footage, and no, it didn't stop the loss of that young life, but certainly it brings some sort of some sense of justice to the family to know that the person responsible can be brought forward to hold account. And so we have to have more pieces of the system held together more strongly. And so I do think that, yes, more community solutions and still, yes, more officers to do the detective work to bring some justice to those individuals and families who've been harmed. Director Grant.
I just wanted to ask, while you're here, if I could have an opportunity to have a conversation with you sometime today or tomorrow, just if it's, quick 30 minutes or so, I just would love to check in with you about a few things, if it's okay.
Absolutely. I see Mark Mullins' hand up.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Elena is a lot more eloquent than I am, but I do appreciate her saying that I'm a good officer. I appreciate that. It's the reason why I'm here and I'm serving is that I do not mind at all. I welcome police reform. We can always get better. I always thought that we were a decent department, but I always know, and across the country, I know that police can get better. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. Um, I grew up under a police department that wasn't so nice to Afro American youth when I was growing up. I had a fear of police. Um, uh, till my mom became a police officer, I had a fear of police. I didn't talk to them. I had a bad experience when I was a Cub Scout because I was small and I had a uniform on, and I met a police officer in a grocery store who was probably working off-duty job. And I said, I got a uniform on. He's got a uniform on. Let me go talk to this police officer. And I walked up to him and he said, get away from me. And so that always that hit me, that struck me as wow, he doesn't like people. And I was in a uniform and he was in a uniform. I thought maybe he would like that, or he would like be open to me and talk to me. And for a long time I wouldn't even contact police. And when I started driving, of course, that changed things a lot too, because I got pulled over a lot and stuff like that. But because I was a TV baby and I grew up watching TV and grew up watching cop shows and stuff like that, I was like, man, I want to be a police officer. Why can't I be a police officer? Well, maybe I could be a police officer and change the attitude of policing by going into policing and being a nice police officer, not a police officer that's going to tell a Cub Scout to get away from me. So I know that sounds like really simple stuff there, but it's the thing that drove me to want to be a police officer. I wanted to be that good police officer that kids could look up to, that kids could come up to and talk to, and maybe want to inspire them to want to be a police officer. So I'm always trying to recruit people, even though it's an unofficial way that I do it. I always try to recruit people as I'm going. Um, I think I'm going to disagree with Elena about one thing in terms of police officers leaving. I think police officers don't necessarily aren't necessarily leaving because of police reform. When the DOJ first got here, it didn't cause officers to leave. I think what has happened is they feel a lack of support. And I think in some cases before this administration, I will say, before this administration, there's been, or we have experienced an out and outright hate for the police. And I always like to remind people when we're trying to reform, this is police reform, it's not police hate. We don't get anywhere by hating the police. We get somewhere by reforming them. That's what this is all about. So I've seen in some instances, in some interviews, some of our city fathers may not necessarily like us. So with that lack of support, I've seen guys walk out the door because they want to go to other agencies and other places where they feel like they're appreciated. The threat of layoffs was another reason why police officers left here. They were afraid that some of these guys, when they got on the department, couldn't miss a paycheck. They had young families, they had new houses, they had all that, and they could not afford to miss one paycheck. So they were afraid to stay because they didn't know whether they would be that first 100. That was definite fear, and they went out of the door like one day, next day the guy's gone. I'm coming in the roll calls, and I got 2 people in my roll call. Yesterday, I was the only one in my roll call. We had to augment, and I don't know how much that's costing the city, because we have to have a certain amount of officers on the street per the contract. So all I'm saying is that we have to be a little careful about saying that because the DOJ is here, police officers are leaving. I'm not saying Elena's wrong, because in some instances that is true. But I'm saying for the most part, it is the lack of support or the out and outright hate of police officers. And we got to stop that, please. I mean, we try to do it. Most of the officers that work around me, most of the officers in the South Precinct, they are here for the community. They want to serve the community. Yesterday, we had a kidnapping, a DV kidnapping. And you should have seen those officers, man, working together, stringing it together, getting the child back, trying to get the suspect into custody. It was a beautiful thing. I was safe. That's where it happened. And I responded, and you should have seen these young officers go to work. It was a thing of beauty. It was. And because they cared about that child, and they cared about the mother, and they were doing their job. And I wish you could have seen it. It was beautiful. So
I'm really sorry to jump in, but I know that the senior deputy mayor Carol has to wrap up. So I just wanted to flag to everyone that we're kind of at time.
I'm done. Thank you. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And thank you, Douglas. I do have another meeting that I have to go to. Austin, I saw your hand and you were so patient. I would just offer, I will reach out to you because you were very patient with not getting your question answered. So I will make sure that you have an opportunity to have your question answered as well. Or even better yet, Director Grant, just let me know when I can come back. And the mayor would also like to have an opportunity to come forward. I know that Director Grant has extended the offer, and so he would like an offer to come and speak as well. And so we'll be in touch with Director Grant to figure out how those schedules can align. Don't think that these are the only opportunities to outreach and connect if there are questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I really appreciate all of your service. I know that this is not easy service to do. I appreciate all of your service. I want to thank each of the CPC members for giving your time to do this very, very important work. And just thank you for that. And I'll pass it back over to your leadership for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that. I know that this discussion, that a lot of folks on the CPC have opinions about this. I just want to provide an additional moment for anybody to respond to anything that's been said or raise any other issues. I appreciate all the speakers. Thank you for providing your perspectives. I think that's a valuable part of this body. I will say that I think it's worth thinking about how the lack of support of police in Seattle has been perceived and whether calls for accountability have been mischaracterized as police hate. I think that I'm not saying that Officer Mullins is doing that. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But if we look at the police department, we aren't laying off officers. We're not really significantly cutting the police budget. It's about where it was in 2019 at this point. So when we have officers leaving, I think it's important to look holistically at all the reasons for that. And I think that legitimate protests against police conduct are not the same as police hate. So I do think it's important to acknowledge that. Again, not saying that I'm not trying to put words in Officer Mullins' mouth or in anyone else's mouth and say that that's what they were saying. I'm just here to say that for myself. But I know that the next, I'm not just going to say that and move on. If anybody does want to respond, I'll give a moment for that before we move on to department updates. Officer Mullins, I see.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I understand the reality that there was no 100 officers laid off. But the rumor or the fear or even the comment by someone in high office is a fear that if your family was threatened by not being able to have a paycheck, you're gonna move fast to try to do something to correct that. Now, our city father said they were gonna lay off 100 officers. That sent shockwaves through the police community here, the department for personnel. And I don't know, I mean, I'm still here, of course, but the fear of that is something that we should deal with too. If you say that you're gonna lay off 100, why say that if that doesn't happen, or you just caused the whole calamity? You understand what I mean?
I do, and I think it's important to talk about that because that was a significant misunderstanding, because what was being discussed was not funding 100 officer positions that everybody in the city, including SPD, agreed would not be filled during that budget period. And that, of course, is very different from laying off 100 officers, because those were jobs that would not have been filled and didn't need to be funded, but ultimately did remain funded. I do see how people would interpret that, especially with police department leadership saying that it would be a layoff. I do see why people would have thought that it was, but that ultimately was a mischaracterization of what was actually happening. Reverend Walden, I see you.
Yeah, I'm going to just say it's because we need to let the deputy mayor leave the meeting. So anyway, I wanted to just acknowledge that and thank you for your coming, for being here. But also we have to also say that the people that the police operation was not ever considered, because had we considered operations and how things work together, Seattle would be different today. And so I'm going to say that, but we probably need to move the agenda on. But thank you. I just want to thank the Deputy Mayor also for coming. Again, thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Harrell, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for your thoughtful conversation. I look forward to continuing it.
And Reverend Walden's absolutely right. We do need to move the agenda along. We're moving into department updates. I see some folks from the City Council. Is there anyone here to provide an update?
Thanks, Austin. I'm Newell Aldrich from Councilmember Herbold's office, Chair of the Public Safety and Human Services Committee. Just a couple updates about the meeting on March 22nd of the committee. As the Senior Deputy Mayor noted, the committee did authorize a time extension for the OPA Director Search process. Secondly, there was a briefing with Chief Diaz about the SPD strategic plan. For upcoming meetings in April, we're still working on the agenda for the meeting on the 12th. On the meeting of the 26th, there's the first of the regularly scheduled quarterly updates about staffing and 911 response. Legislation on incentives is going to be first heard at that meeting. And we tentatively have an appointment scheduled for a council-appointed CPC commissioner, though we need to confirm that the appointee is going to be available on that date. And I think we should know next week about that. Thanks.
Thank you. The mayor's office, I think we can say that we've been updated by the mayor's office today. And then Mr. Ward from the monitoring team, do you have any updates?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Good morning. There is no report from the monitor. He continues to ready himself for the next CPC community engagement meeting and the finalization of the use of force assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Do we have anybody from DOJ?
Yeah, hey, Austin and everyone. Good morning. Matt Waldrop from the U.S. Attorney's Office. No update from the DOJ at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. And I see we have the OPA here today.
Yes, good morning. My name is Katie. I just have a few quick updates. A lot, as you can imagine, is focused on, we're excited for a new director and that process and what that looks like. Similarly, we're going through quite a few transitions in our office. Ann Bettisworth, who has been with OPA for several years, previously with CPC, her last day is today, so she's moving on. So we're seeing some transition at all levels. We're also working to hire. We're actively in the process now for 2 civilian investigators, as well as an investigation supervisor, which is a civilian position. So hoping to have those positions filled soon, which is exciting. And then also just reminding folks, or if you've not yet seen a chance, that the annual report came out this week for last year as well. So I would encourage everyone to review that and let us know if you have questions. Thank you.
I do have one quick question, but does anybody else have a question before I ask? Okay. Thank you very much for being here. You said that you're about to hire investigation supervisor. Is that right? Okay. And then are the 2 civilian investigator positions at OPA, are those in the process of being filled too?
They are, yes. So the civilian investigator position, so 2 civilian investigators, which we've had kind of filled throughout, and then some of them promoted to investigation supervisors. And then one of our investigation supervisors left OPA in March. So we're just starting that. Seems so long ago, but so soon also that it was within a month. So looking to fill all 3 positions and maintain a full civilian staff.
So just so I have the org chart right, right now there aren't any civilian investigators at OPA, or?
There's investigation supervisors. So Dane is still, who's a civilian staff member, still leading the investigative team of sworn staff right now. But yes, we are still actively filling those positions. We're in the interview process now, so it should be quite soon. But all leadership is still civilian.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Mr. Maxey here from SPD.
Good morning, all. Couple updates from SPD. One is that representatives of the department, including the chief and myself, were able to go down to the consent decree conference in Fort Worth over late last week, where we were able to engage with a lot of departments that are in different stages of consent decrees, either just getting started, halfway through, or like us, approaching the end. For those of you that do not know, the consent decree conference, this is in its 4th year, although they skipped one during COVID. And it brings together the judges, the monitors, the departments, and representatives from cities to discuss what is working, what is not working, and collaborate on best practices for all of those different perspectives. So it was a valuable journey for us at SPD. I think we learned some things. I think we shared some things. And generally, it was a very valuable conference. As mentioned at the beginning of the call, I did submit the response to the use of force data letter that we received that was dated March 22nd, 2022. And as requested, responded by April 5th. And I look forward to answering questions about that or discussing it further with this group. I think that's all for now. Happy to answer any other questions, though.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I have one quick one. I know that you've been very willing to engage on the Sunset Electric letter, and I appreciate that. I have to ask you about it again, because I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think we've received the information that I know that you're working to make available. So I'm curious what the update is.
Yeah, I should have that, and maybe even by today, to go out, just the information on the different brands of the CS gas that was deployed. Again, I think, as I mentioned previously, that we're not going to be able to tell you at which location and which deployment, which vendor was used. But that being said, we should be able to get that out today. And I also did, by the way, find Chief Diaz's original response to this dated January 6, 2022. And I will be including that with the letter response, just so we can close the loop on that.
Thank you. And am I correct in understanding that I remember you saying something about this in a previous meeting, but I can't remember exactly what was said, that the like the recipe, the ingredients for the gas is proprietary, and so could you, I think you know what I'm referring to, could you remind
the
me?
So-called ingredients, yes. On the web pages of the vendors that we're giving you links to, they have some information about their chemical compounds. I think the active ingredients being the critical ones at issue. Okay,
But so there are components of these crowd control gases that even SPD isn't, entirely sure what's in them. Is that the issue?
I have to look into that question. I hadn't perceived that as an issue to date, because the active ingredients is the ones that typically are of concern, but I can look a little bit deeper into that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not trying to do a gotcha question or anything. I'm just trying to just see what information is public and what information is more closely held. So appreciate that. Does anyone else have any other questions for department updates? Okay, we're going to go ahead and shift into public comment. Public comment is welcomed by the CPC, and individual speakers will be provided up to 2 minutes. Sorry, is there some?
I was gonna say maybe we're some from OIG here, or
yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed OIG.
Yes, I
here
from
yes.
OIG representing Lisa this morning.
Thank you. Good catch. I appreciate that. Sorry about that.
Thank you. So hello to everyone. I'm Miroslava Mesa, and I am representing Inspector General Judge today. So we have a couple updates. So the most important one is related about the work of surveillance technologies. That is something that we are mandated to do, and it has taken us time to start because we needed to find technically capable staff to do it, and it's a very specific set of tools that we needed to learn to do. So we already started. We have been working with the city auditor's office, and we're just ramping up and trying to hire a specialist to be a full-time person working on surveillance technology. So that's our first item in the list. The second thing is going back to something you mentioned earlier, Austin, related to the Sunset Electric concerns. So there is a project that is an analysis about not just necessarily the effects of the use of less lethal, but also some other concerns that neighbors from there have raised in the past. And there is an analysis that they requested from us related about the use of masks by police enforcement. And that is something we're working currently with SPV, and we are about to publish it probably in 2 to 3 weeks. So that is something that is almost done. And lately, we had some staff changes, like everybody else has, I know, but mostly people from the area of operations in our office have been rotated or are in some out of class assignments. So we are very lucky that we got a new person to be the head of our operations department or unit, Rhonda Lyons, that formerly was part of the city office of the city auditors. She has joined us and she will be taking care of all the ops, finance, HR, you name it, IT. So that will definitely help us to focus on doing the work and not just having to divert resources, also just to keep up the operations. So that's it, and thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Does anyone, Officer Mullins, I see you have a question. Oh, you're muted.
Yes, yes, ma'am. When we're talking about surveillance, are we talking about what does that encompass?
Thank you. That's a really great question. So by city ordinance, there is the surveillance ordinance, right? So in that ordinance, there are a list of surveillance technologies that are being added to a list that are ready to be reviewed. And depending of who owns those technologies, either SPV or the fire department, Department of Transportation, those have to be reviewed in a yearly basis starting this year. Well, some of them started last year, but for SPV start this year. So those are like license plate readers, cameras, even traffic stop cameras, everything that has or collects any kind of data of the public. And I think it's in a yearly basis. The city council is working with SPV and other organizations, other departments to release those that are ready to be reviewed. So right now, SPV has 3 technologies that are ready to be reviewed, and that's what we're going to start working on.
Can I ask which 3?
Let me put them in the chat, because I think there is a whole very nice description of them in their website. So I will put them in the chat.
Would one of them be the drones?
No, not yet.
Okay.
They are eventually they will be in the list if there are drones used by SPV, but if there is a process of approval by the council that it's adding them to the list, and as they get approved, then we can review them. And currently, I haven't seen any drone in that list.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I did have one. I read OIG's recent Sentinel event review, and it mentioned the Sunset Electric folks. And I appreciate that your office is continuing to investigate some of their concerns. I saw that OIG noted that residents of Sunset Electric mentioned that officers had repeatedly entered the building without permission from residents or building management, which to me raises some serious 4th and 5th Amendment issues. And so I'm curious if OIG is going to continue to, is going to look into that.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Yeah, that is part of the follow-up work that is coming out from the Sentinel event and those items that were identified. And it was not just the only one, there are other things, and we're working with as we go on them.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I need to turn the meeting over to Douglas, actually, because I need to run. But thank you for answering that question. And thank you, everybody, for the thoughtful discussion today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Austin.
Thanks, Austin. And thanks to everyone who provided updates. We're now going to enter public comment. Public comment is welcomed by the CPC. Individual speakers will be provided up to 2 minutes to comment about items on the meeting agenda. Please remember, if you're providing public comment, it can only be in reference to items on the agenda today. If you're commenting on items outside of the agenda, your time to speak will be cut off. Is there anyone who would, excuse me, do we have anyone signed up for public comment today?
Hi, I have checked the email. We do not have anyone signed up. So if anyone wants to participate in public comment, they could raise their hand and I can switch them over so they can be a part of the discussion.
All right, so if you'd like to sign up for public comment, if you can just use the raise your hand function through Zoom, we'll get you signed up to do that. I'm not seeing anyone. Shay, are you seeing anyone on your end?
I'm not seeing anyone here in the meeting, and I double checked the email inbox and I don't see anyone there either. So I don't think we have anyone today for public comment.
Yep, I can confirm. I'm also looking at it as well, serving as backup, and I don't see anyone as well.
Okay. Well, we will move on to the next section of our agenda, which is CPC updates. The first one is co-chair updates, and I think all the updates I can think of have kind of already been covered in the meeting today. Anything else, Reverend Walden? No.
No, I think that we're still out recruiting and looking to recruit new commissioners to help with this fine work that this laid out before us. So other than that, I mean, I don't think we have any updates.
Great. I guess I'll just remind folks to take a look at the use of force letter that was sent around, the response that we got from SPD, which was sent around last night, so that we can be ready for a discussion at our next CPC meeting later this month. Executive Director updates, any updates from you, Director Grant?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all. I just wanted to provide a few updates. The monitor actually shared the use of force assessment in advance of the community engagement meeting on April 12th. I'll send that around to everyone today, so you all have an opportunity to be able to read it, staff as well. I just want to employ, and I know Felicia's also going to do it, we really want to see as many commissioners as possible at this final kind of series of meetings going over the assessment to the court. And so your attendance is much needed and much appreciated. And again, that is April 12th and it's at 6 p.m. As Reverend Walden was saying, yes, recruitment for commissioners for vacant seats and folks whose terms have ended and have moved on, unfortunately. We have 2 pending seats that are pending placement, and that is a mayoral seat and then a council seat. And the council seat was referenced by Newell during his update. So I wanted you all to be aware of that we will hopefully have 2 new commissioners that will be joining. And with that being said, I am updating the onboarding process for new commissioners moving forward to include a lot of the leadership aspects for becoming co-chairs. So moving forward, there will not be a separation between on the onboarding process for co-chairs and commissioners. Everyone will have the same process, so we can start laying foundation for folks to be able to step into those roles naturally and feel at ease and feel like they have the resources and support to be able to do so. We are in the process of going through the training phase from an administrative standpoint for the software board software management that I had spoken to you all about, that we were implementing and building out, that'll be specifically for the CPC. Other cities have used it. In the city of Seattle, there are some other departments that have also utilized this platform. It's for documentation, sharing out meeting requests, being able to live stream. There is an electronic voting process, really just some really unique aspects that can take our board management process to the next level. And so we are on the background, back end of things, being trained administratively on how we can use it now that it has actually been built out specifically for us. Work priorities for the office. We are still working on updating and creating a new communication strategy, especially with us having Ms. Jacqueline, who joined us and is doing an out-of-class assignment with us. We are building out a calendar of events and speaking engagements that'll be coming up. There's also going to be an opportunity to engage commissioners in upcoming community events. There will be phone calls that are going to be being made over the next probably couple of weeks or so. It will either be myself or Jacqueline reaching out to you all about highlighting commissioners and the work that you've done since you've been here. The annual report is still in development and ongoing. The community engagement job descriptions are in review currently now with comp class. So we have got them cleared through HR. Now we are determining, based on the updates that have been made, the adequate pay for the skill sets and tasks that have been outlined in that position. And then other than that, those are all of my updates, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Brandy. All right, we will move to work group updates, starting with police practices.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I will be doing, I think, all of the work group updates today, and we'll start with police practices. So first, we have completed our first couple of MAR reviews. So hopefully we will have those before the commission in our next CPC meeting for you all to review and take a vote on. Next up, we will be completing a MAR review for the Terry Caver case. This will actually be a collaboration between police practices and the behavioral health work group. I'm really excited for it because I think it's going to end up being really comprehensive, really good. So that is kind of the police practices and the behavioral health update. Should I keep going or should I pause for Felicia to give the community engagement update at this point?
I think let's pause and give Felicia also an opportunity to give the CE updates. Yes.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I won't take up much time. I just couple of things I would like to bring to note to the meeting is that the community engagement, as our Director Grant has already kind of mentioned, the community engagement meeting is coming up this next Tuesday. The notices will be going out far and wide today, as we have the monitor's report as his assessment for use of force. And I don't know how many people have noticed, but they, because of the OIG's report on use of force is out in the news now, so I'm kind of anticipating a good presence at the meeting surrounding the assessment. So I am literally to the point of begging the commissioners to please try to attend the meetings, especially this one if you can please. And with the agenda, what I'm doing with the agenda now is I will lay down the ground rules in the beginning, the opening welcome, but I would like to have two commissioners step up to just kind of welcome the community, and then one to help wrap the meeting up. And I know Reverend Walden has stepped into that place, and also Director Grant has, but I'm just want a little bit more participation from commissioners. So if there's anyone that can help out for next Tuesday, that would be great. And Reverend Walden, I would, love to have you too, if that's something you're still comfortable with. The other piece is I will definitely be looking for topics, because now that we're wrapping up this series with the monitoring team and the 4 core assessments, now we're going to be able to open up more for community topics. So I'm going to be asking the community at the meeting as well to submit any topics that you want brought forth. And also, but commissioners, and we're going to be highlighting some of the work that Nia's doing with the workshops. And we're also going to, I'm also going to have a platform where SPD OIG, OPA can come and talk about their what is it? Their summary, the reports that they're being put out. So those are just some examples, but willing and wanting and looking forward to hearing from as many of you as possible. Thank you, Brian Maxey, for your letter. I'll be talking to Director Grant about that more before the meeting. And then one of the last things I'll bring up for right now is that as the spring and the summer starts to come around, we will be really, it's time now that COVID and the world's opening back up, that we're going to have to start like getting back out in the community as commissioners and engaging in what's going on in your community, so that we can start to get that report back and to also get more engagement from the different demographics. I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited about it. With that being said, I was reached out to participate in the Festival Sanjata. And this is a festival that goes on at the Seattle Center. It will be June 17th, 18th, and 19th this year. So Juneteenth weekend. And it's been going on here in Seattle for many, many years. And it's, let me see, can I share? Let's see. I just pulled up the flyer so you can see it there. Can you see that? Can you guys see that?
No.
Oh, you can't. It's okay. Shoot. Maybe I can't share. Um. Anyway, Festival Sanjata is it's just a big cultural weekend with music and arts and food. And so they've asked us to hold a booth, and I think this would be a great first opportunity in my position to have a booth, just so that we can engage with the community and have a little bit of swag and some brochures talking more about our accountability partners, and particularly CPC. So I'm gonna send out a sign up sheet. I'm going to send around a sign up sheet for participation. It'll be 3 days, and our time period is between 12 and 6. So it'll be plenty of time for everybody to participate. SPD, I think, will be participating as well, and with the CSOs, so in recruiting. So please put that on your calendars. Put it in your minds, because this is the first of many more to come, events that I'll be looking forward to engaging with you all.
Lisa, you should be able to share your screen now if you want to bring that flyer
Oh,
out for everyone.
okay. I was just gonna. Okay, let's see. Can you see now? No. Shay, can you see it?
No, I can't see it.
We'll just send it around to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put together email of items now, so we'll just send it around.
Yeah, because the share button was not lit up. But please do take a moment to look at some of the things that will be going on at Festival Sunjata. I think it'll be a great weekend. I've always gone, so. And I think that's it for me for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cross.
Thank you so much. Nia, are we turning it back to you, I guess?
Yes. So the first work group I'll talk about now is the state legislative agenda work group. So as we all know, the session ended last month. So the work group and the staff has been working on putting together what we're calling a scorecard, which outlines the legislation that we as a commission voted to support or oppose, any legislation that we kept an eye on throughout the session, as well as pieces of legislation that came up during the session that fell under the priorities that you all voted on. So we've put together this scorecard and a brief statement about the session that we will be publishing at this point this week. The other thing that SLA is working on now that the session is over, it's actually a couple of things. The first of which is that in the next CE meeting in May, the SLA work group will be present to talk about pretty much how the session went. That'll be kind of a brief underview is what we'll call it. And we're hoping to hear from the community on what sort of priorities they would like for us to begin working around and focusing on for the next session. So we're really looking forward to that and hoping to have a lot of community input. So that is what is going on with SLA at this moment. And the other work group that I'll talk about is complainant appeals. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago and we determined a new kind of strategy and structure for how we'll carry out the work in that work group. So what we're looking at now is potentially having town halls about what people would want to see in a complainant appeals process, hearing from the community really to kind of use the work group to take what we hear from the community to build out our recommendations based on what they have to say. We're really excited about this because we feel it'll give us a broader swath of feedback to work from. So we're still in the process of planning everything for that work group. We're still developing our plan, but that is the strategy that we're looking to implement once we start the work. And I think that's it for the work groups, unless there are any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Nia or anyone else who reported out on work groups?
I see Felicia.
I'm sorry, just back to community engagement. I forgot to put it out there again. Once you get the notice for the meeting and the agenda and the use of force assessment, please send it out to as many people as you can, as broadly as you can. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank our amazing CPC staff and our commissioners for their work in our work group. That's really how the business of the CPC moves forward. And thank all the presenters and folks who shared updates with us today. Brandy, unless there's anything else, I guess I'll just wrap us up.
Yep. Just want to concur with Douglas. Want to thank everybody for participating in the meeting today and the really robust conversation we had. Another thank you for the department heads who came and provided updates, and to Senior Deputy Mayor Harrell for attending the meeting too, and our two facilitators of the meeting this morning. I appreciate you all, and everybody have a great week. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.